This is Alethea Thompson. I'll be teaching a class that will be in a series of different sections. This is your introduction to Bridging the Thin Blue Line. I'll give you a little bit of history behind this class. I started it as aiding emergency services back in 2010 at Force Academy, and I wanted to get it a little bit more further out into the community. I managed to teach a little bit of it at Institute for Jedi Realist Studies, and we've had one or two video classes that I've taught this at. So this will be the first time that I've actually taught it in a format where I'm not really getting feedback in the middle of the voice, but you know a little bit now. I created this course originally because I noticed that there were a lot of people at the time that I was writing this who wanted to do vigilante stuff. And no, this is not actually in relation to the recent post that occurred. I've had this program forever. I've been wanting to bring it to Tatcho for a while, and now I get my opportunity to actually do something with it here. So anyways, they wanted to all be vigilantes, and we even had a guy that came into the community, and he's got a documentary on him that shows that he does stuff where he does vigilante things, and one day he'll probably get picked up by the police. So the Jedi community, we talk about being of service to other people, and one of the things that we try to say is that you need to be a responsible person in service to others. So now that we have the formal introductions out of the way, welcome to Bridging the Thin Blue Line. The task is to learn how you can play a role in building a stronger, lawful community. This class will be geared more towards the American side of things, but we won't really get into the American specific stuff until much later into the class, and I'll even let you know when that happens. So once again, I just want to say thank you for coming and welcome to the first iteration of this course. Those of you who have been in the military before, or at least the Army, I don't actually know if the other ones do it, might actually recognize some of the setup for the initial part of this class. Sorry, it's kind of a history thing. I can't get myself out of it. It's also kind of just a kickback to when I did an offline course for the Jedi Gathering on First Aid. So, anyways, your conditions. Given a class of highly motivated students, woo, come on. Give me, okay, yeah, probably not. You're all looking at me, probably thinking I'm crazy. Anyway, standards. Students will learn to legally and efficiently assist their community in the event of a criminal event taking place. Risk assessment, low. Objectives, you're going to learn how to do reporting, sworn statements, Miranda rights, when to ask for a lawyer, importance of training and certificates and certifications such as CPR and AED, importance of situational awareness, the importance of and how to improve personal safety, understanding police profiling, the importance of crime scene protection, how impairment factors into statements, so the other parts in here, that's going to be part of your homework assignment. We'll get to that here in a minute. Moving on. All right, so like I said in the last slide, you're going to have homework. You don't have to do this unless you're told to, but I would highly recommend that you actually do this. And if you end up going to another order that this is taught at, you can get full credit for it without having to go back through it again. I can just put you on a list and say, hey, they did it. Anyways, the different essays that should be completed, you're going to look up your local citizens arrest laws, the weapons laws, legal definitions of assault, and Good Samaritan laws. I would try to do this for everybody. I did it for Chicago Jedi when I taught it in person there, but these laws vary so greatly that it's just a lot easier for me to not have to do all that work on my own. So what this will do is it will help you learn how to research your own laws in the area, and you'll be able to start learning how to interpret them. Now, when you do these essays, let me tell you, I've I've had a lot of people, when I was a police officer in the MP Corps, people come up to me and ask me, hey, how do you interpret the UCMJ on this? And I would look at them blankly because I wasn't allowed to tell them how it actually is. In the MP Corps, we kind of just sort of say, okay, well, this is what I would personally do, but I'm not a legal aid, so I'm not the right person to ask. Or we were just told, keep your mouth shut because you could tell them the wrong information. They need to go to JAG, which is where this next bit of advice comes in. Don't ask the police for information. Ultimately, the police are not going to be the ones persecuting you, nor are they going to be the ones defending you in court. They might be there to assist the person persecuting you or defending you in court, but ultimately they're not the ones that know exactly what that law means. They don't know all the casework that's gone with it. I'm sure you probably noticed that law is crazy. So, you want to talk to a lawyer or the State Department about it. Sometimes State Department will know. I need you to cite the law, if you do this homework, that is, where I can find the information if I were to move to your area. I want to research it myself so that I know that you're actually finding the right information. And for each essay, include anything that sounds similar. What you can and cannot carry. How you can carry. What is assault? Assault with a deadly weapon. What's battery? Stuff like that. Make sure you provide a good paper, one that's good enough to show that you fully understand the law. Also, explain how this affects you as a citizen in your state or country or county or municipality, whatever the law is that ends up governing where you are specifically. If you happen to travel to a larger city for work, you might even look into that. I'm not going to ask you to find that one in particular, but it'll help you later on if you know how to do it for your current living space. And I also want to know, do you feel it impedes on your ability to help someone in danger? Why? If so, what can you do to help the victim while still obeying the law? And some of that we'll get into later on, so you can write it as you go, but now would be the time to start looking into it. Now, I've had it asked, because there are some countries that just don't have the law on it. What if we don't have one that allows for a citizen's arrest? What do I do? All right, in that case, write an essay on why you feel your country does not support such a law or why it doesn't have one, and tell me why you think this information is important. How does it affect you as a citizen who wants to help? What does the law allow you to do? And by this, I mean, okay, in Japan they have a law that you can't help somebody who's on the side of the road who's about to die unless you're EMS qualified by their standards. So I could be a medic with the Army, have all of that training. I could be a physician with the Army, have all the training for trauma, and if I touch that guy and he dies, even if I just go up to say, hey, are you okay? If I touch that guy and he dies, it can come back on me. So it's one of those laws where you really did not like, and had a guy that fortunately he knew about that law, so he didn't do anything, and the guy ended up dying. I'm not going to get into the details of how he was found, but they did call the police, and that's what they were able to do, was call the ambulance and get them out there. So, be aware of those things. Why does it exist? How can you get around it? Etc. This course is not to teach you to be gung-ho. In fact, you're going to find that it's quite the opposite. The purpose for teaching this course, however, is so that you have a better understanding of how laws work in your area of residence, and also how you can learn to research local laws. Turning to the quote that you see here by Michael Hannigan, we have, personally, if you hear the fight, you should call the cops because it's better to call the cops and be wrong than not to call the cops and be right. This will be the second to last slide. I'll just basically say goodbye on the last one and explain what's down underneath this video. But anyways, I want to develop a conversation, a dialogue with people before we get further into this. Just get an assessment of how people see things and what they view and how they're going to respond to this particular question. This is basically one of the things that I would stop at and I would have a discussion if we were doing an actual face-to-face type class. But since we're not, for the purpose of this format, we're just going to go this direction. I'll give you the scenario and basically the discussion, which you're probably reading already. And we can go from there and have a discussion before we get into the next video. Shots fired, domestic violence scenario. You hear a loud ruckus next door. It sounds a lot like a wife and a husband yelling at each other. You've heard them argue in the past, but nothing ever came of it. So you never reported it to the proper authorities. You know some other details about what's going on in the house. Kids, children, dog. You don't really know if they got any weapons. Whatever. You got some basic knowledge of what's going on with your neighbor's house. Not a whole lot. You don't really interact with them. So suddenly, you hear a loud bang. It sounds like a gunshot. Keep all that in mind. If you got to go back and replay it, replay it. Discussion that we're going to talk about in the following time frame between now and the next video. What do you do between the time you realize it has taken another step, that is, it becomes a full-on domestic, you hear the gunshot, and the time the police arrive? Also, while you have the police on the phone, what are you going to tell them to get them out there? Once again, thank you for sharing with me in this first video, the first step in learning how to bridge the thin blue line. Down below, you're going to see a couple of exercises, 2 of them to be specific. These are optional, but they can be really fun if you do them. They're supposed to be there to help you develop your situational awareness and to try to remember what's going on in the room. Now, the funny thing is, I actually wrote all of these before I knew what psych was. Turns out, I'm not the only one that thinks it's a good idea. They even wrote it into a well-known TV show that I absolutely adore. So, if you want something to do that's fun, I encourage you to get your kids involved if you have them. I encourage you to get your spouse involved if he likes to have fun and do stuff like that too, or your friends. It can be cute, just don't try to be creepy about it. At least one of them has you in a house, so you don't got to worry too much about that. But the one that has you out, possibly at a mall or a Starbucks or something like that, try not to draw attention to yourself. Anyways, I really look forward to the discussion that's going to develop. Feel free to also comment on your findings in regards to these 2 optional situational awareness exercises. And finally, may the force be with you all.